Hi there and welcome to this Reveal Masterclass on Shorthand. My name's Dawn and I'm Training and Support Manager here. So firstly, I'm going to talk you through what a Reveal section is. Then we'll look at 10 ways in which the Reveal section could be used, and we'll really bring that to life by looking at some real life examples of how others have already used it. And then we'll finish off with a tutorial at the end where I'll basically put together some reveal sections that you can see how maybe yours could come to life. So firstly, what is the reveal section? The reveal section is a section type within Shorthand that allows you to feature full screen images and place a transition between them. And there are 6 transitions to choose from. You'll see those in this GIF here. So you can either have no transition, a fade transition, a down swipe, an up swipe, a left swipe, or a right swipe. So there are many ways of using this section type. And today I hope to inspire you in terms of how you might be able to use it by looking at how other customers are already using the reveal section. So firstly, number 1 is a gallery type example, and I'd like to look at this story by Travel Weekly. So in this story, if I just scroll down to the reveal section, which is a little bit further down, you'll see we get to the reveal here, and we've got a caption at the bottom of it. And what we do is as we scroll, we fade to each image. So rather than featuring a gallery maybe in kind of a carousel type effect, actually we're able to have full screen images and we're not interrupting the flow of the story for the reader at all, because all they have to do to sort of take them through the journey of all of these images is to just continuously scroll through the page. The next example I want to show you is a way in which that you could deliver comparative information. So I'll go to this story by complex. And this is a text over media section at a half height. And then this is where the reveal section starts. And they've used an upward swipe here to swipe between these kind of slide type images where we compare the do's and the don'ts about the recently legalized cannabis in Canada. And what works really well about this particular way in which they've used the reveal here is the design as well. They've really thought about the design in terms of the first do image. You've got the colouring of the do here, which is actually the background of the next image. The third example I want to show you is a compare and contrasting sort of with a place. So there's 2 examples of this actually. And if you've joined our full training session on Shorthand, you probably would have seen the mountains moved before, as that's shown in quite a few of those sessions. I'll show you this example first. So this is a story by The National, who are a publisher in the UAE. And this is a story all about the war in Syria. And this is the reveal section that I want to take an opportunity to look at here. So what they've done is they've taken some beautiful images of Syria before the conflict started, and now they have paired them with images that reflect what the country looks like now. And while those images perhaps don't completely sort of match up, the first images were taken before the conflict started. What was going to happen could have not been predicted. These images that they may have found elsewhere. It's really powerful going from the way that the area used to look to the way that it looks now, really showing the reader how catastrophic this war has been. The next example is The Mountains Moved by Stuff. And this is a story all about the earthquake that hit New Zealand. So this is the reveal section. And what they've done here is they've taken Google Earth images and then they've paired them with images that they've gone out and taken themselves. And this is the result. We fade from what the area used to look like to how it looks now. And the same again with this reveal section. So for someone who's never been to New Zealand before, again, this is really aimed at showing the reader rather than telling them what has happened. And you can really see how dramatically the landscape has changed as a result of the earthquake. The next example, again, I've got two for this one as well, is data visualization or infographics. Now, this first one, again, if you've had a look on our homepage, you probably would have seen this example. And again, if you've joined any of the full training sessions, you would have probably come across this as well. And there is plenty of examples of data visualization in this story using both the scrollmation sections and the reveal sections. So I'm actually just going to fast forward a little bit just so I can concentrate on the particular example I wanted to go through today. So this is the example that I wanted to focus on, this kind of chart here. We have a question that's being posed and no data currently in here. Now, as we scroll through, we fade in the first set of data. And as we continue to scroll, we fade in the second set of data. And again, because this is comparative data, it's answering a question that's been posed. It's comparative data, and it works really well, again, to show the reader rather than tell them. Next up is this story by CBC News. And this story is all about the effects of crystal meth. It follows a very personal story, but it also looks at wider statistics on the use of crystal meth. So this is the reveal section that I wanted to focus on. You have crystal meth here in the hands of this person. And then as we scroll through, we basically change. We fade from one image to the second image. And the second image comes fully into focus here. So as you can see what they've done, they've put this chart on a faded background of the original image. Then we continue to scroll and we bring in the first set of information. And this time, rather than a fade, we're using a scroll that's going from the left to the right to bring that information across the screen. And because the data is moving that way, it works really, really well. The data is actually kind of tracking over the screen, moving up, really delivering that data in an engaging and effective way to the reader. Next up is highlighting key information. And for this, I'd like to have a look at this story by UNDP, which is about Bitcoin and blockchain. So this is the reveal section here. We have this image of the street with people on the street. And then as we scroll through, we fade in firstly the dotted line here of the lady. And then we fade in this identification card. And then further on, again, we highlight the second person in this story. And then we also bring in an identification card for that person as well. So a really effective way of sort of layering images, but also highlighting key information in these images. Next example is, again, sort of image layering. I do have a couple of examples for this one again. The first example is this story by Barbican, and it's about an exhibition that they ran around music. So scroll down to this reveal section here, and we start with this first Prince album in the top left-hand corner. And then as we scroll through the story, we fade in more album covers as we go, effectively layering more information on these images, looking at music throughout the ages. Now, all of these stories I'm showing you, they've thought about how this works on mobile, but I just want to pause actually and just take a moment to look at how this one does work on mobile. As it's simple but really effective, what they've done is they've actually thought we're going to have just 3 images, so 3 album covers per line on this one to kind of think about the area within which they have to play with on mobile. And then they do exactly the same thing, though they fade in each album cover, but they've made sure that all of the imagery that they've used has been tailored for mobile there. So the reader, no matter what device they're coming to the story from, whether it's mobile or desktop or tablet, that they're going to get a really fantastic experience. The next story I want to show you is one by Honda. This is called Stranger Things, and it's about bikes. And again, this is an example of image layering. If I just scroll down to the reveal section, we have this picture of the bike here. And then as we scroll through, we use a downward swipe to bring in a close-up of a certain element, the wheel of that bike. We're kind of highlighting key points of this bike by using image layering. Next example is plotting journeys on a map. And for this, I'd like to look at this story by War Child. This is a story meeting a young Syrian family of refugees. It's talking about what life is like for them now. And we focus on their escape from Syria here by looking at this map. So we start with image 1, with just Syria highlighted. And then as we scroll through, we bring a downward swipe and we bring in the next image. So this is just one image that we're bringing in here. But it brings in not only that dotted line, but it brings in the rest of Jordan as well. Then the third image is that little dotted line that goes there. And then the next image is the continuation of that dotted line that takes them to the camp before we move on with the rest of the story. Next example is animation. And this is a story by the BBC, a very sad story. And there's lots of animation aspects in this story, actually using the scrollmation section as well, that you'll see as you scroll through. But the particular section I want to focus on here is this image of these hands holding each other. And this is quite a simple one. They've just gone for 2 images here with no transition in between. So we just kind of quickly change from one image to the other, and it brings these hands together as you move through the story. So the next example I want to look at is this one, which is creating flipbook animation with images. And this is a story by Huck in partnership with Vans. And this is the reveal section that I wanted to focus on here, where we have still images, this guy skateboarding. So as we move through the story, we actually move him in kind of a flipbook animation style effect. And we can make him skate on that half pipe. He disappears sort of out of shot, comes back in as we continue scrolling. And then we continue with the rest of the story. The final example I want to show you is how you can create chapter heads using the reveal. So this is a story by New Zealand Herald. It's a really harrowing story about a lady named Marie who was murdered by her partner. And the story is separated into two halves. It starts, you sort of meet her family. They paint a picture of what her life was like. There's actually a reveal section here as well, quite an emotional one. And it's the second reveal section that I want to pause on and really show you. Which is this one here, where we've got this quite pixelated image of Marie and that sort of new style on purpose. As we scroll through, we fade to Marie in black and white, and then we further fade to this image of Marie, but with this filter over it. And then again, the same image with the filter applied here. Then we've also added the words that are in the image themselves. So we fade in those words as we scroll. And then finally, we have the same image, but without Marie in the background. We now have a black background so that we fade again. And we fade Marie away into the darkness before we continue with the rest of the story, which covers off her partner's subsequent arrest and imprisonment. So a really powerful way of creating a chapter head there. So those are the 10 examples that I wanted to show you today, but now I wanted to make a couple of reveal sections. So I'm just going to go over into this story actually. So this is the story that we've been looking at today. And this is the text over media section that you would have just seen. So I'm just going to add a reveal section. And you can see with the reveal, I can go to edit media in the left-hand side here, and then I've got the 3 default images, and I can just delete them like so. So the first one I want to show you is quite a simple reveal. It's moving from day to night. So I have my image here of New York in the daytime. And then at the moment, I've got a fade applied by default. So I fade from day to night. I can access my transitions just down the bottom here. So I can experiment with maybe what it's like having sort of no transition here. Or maybe I might like to try a left. But I think the best one for this one is going to be down. So I start with my daytime and then night falls on New York. And so what I've done in order to achieve that is I've found 2 images, one of New York in the day and one of New York in the night. And of course, they are the same images apart from one is in daytime and one is in nighttime. So it gives me that really nice transition between the two there. I'll add another reveal section now. This time I'll show you how you can use the reveal for kind of data visualization. So I've got a series of images here about coffee consumption around the world. So I've got my first image, which is my coffee cup here, and then coffee consumption here is a bit of an introduction. Just save and exit there. And then I fade into my European stats. And then I scroll and fade into my USA stats. And then I fade to Japan. And then I fade to the rest of the world. So each time what's changing on this image is of course, the animation that we've got in the coffee cup and the detailing of the statistics on the right-hand side as well. So the next example I want to show you is actually sort of peeling layers back rather than adding stuff in. So I'm just going to add in 3 images of some lions here. So I start with my 3 lions, and there's going to be a fade on here as default. So I fade to the muscle, and then again I fade to the bone. Again, sort of thinking about how I want this to work, I'm actually going to go for an upward swipe here and then see how that looks. And then I would keep it consistent. I would go for the same sort of effect here. It's quite an educational piece for the readers there. The next example I want to show you is how to plot a journey on a map using a series of images. And this is one of the best examples to have a look at in terms of thinking about using different directional transitions in one reveal section, depending on where the information sort of needs to either come from or go to in the section. So all my images have loaded in, and I'll show you just what I've got here to start with. So what I've got is I've got just an aerial image of a road or a set of roads. And then my second image, I've used a photo editing tool to introduce a dotted line here. And as you can see at the moment, we're set to the default of fade, so that's phasing in. And then the third image is this sort of other directional prompt here. And then again, another dotted line, another little prompt here, and then again, a dotted line to kind of finish that little journey on the map. So if I just go all the way back to the beginning and think about what I need to do here. So my line is going, or needs to go from the left to the right. So what I'm going to do there is put a right swipe in, so that it goes from the left to the right across the screen. So that works really well for that dotted line there. Then my next one is this kind of fading on this image here. Now I could experiment with this. I could maybe try an upward swipe here sort of to see how that looks. But because it's quite a circular kind of arrow here, I do think the best effect that's going to work here is that fade. So it's kind of fading on there. The next image. So again, this needs to be an upwards transition here so that we're kind of drawing dots up the screen. And then my next one, again, is this little extra directional prompt. So again, I could experiment here. I could try an upwards, kind of see how it works with that arrow. But I do think that the fade is just going to work better there. So I'm going to keep that consistent with the one previously and have that as a fade. Then my next one, my final kind of transition here, because that's going from the right to the left, or it needs to go from the right to the left. And I'm going to use a left swipe here, that left transition, so it draws the dots from the right to the left of the screen. And then I just click save and exit. And if I just wanted to see how all of these are going to look when they're published in the story, I would take it to preview. I would just scroll through the story to my reveal tutorials here, and then I can see all of the reveals that I've created today, which are quite different from one to the other as well, just to show you some of the different effects that you can create with reveal. And hopefully by looking at these examples, as well as the 10 ways to use reveal that we've picked out in terms of the so many different ways that it's being used by customers in shorthand, hopefully it will give you some inspiration in terms of how you too could use the reveal section in your stories. And that concludes this reveal masterclass. I hope you've enjoyed listening today. And if you do have any questions about the reveal section or any other section, or indeed our training resources, please do feel free to reach out to us at help@shorthand.com. And happy storytelling.